So let me welcome you one more time to this month's incredible Billhighway Mariner webinar. Before we get into the content, woohoo! Have you heard the incredible noise? Yes, the incredible news. It's all about CEX. We are set. Registration is open. We're going to be with the wonderful people of ADA, Dental Association. No, you do not have to have your teeth inspected when you're there on Tuesday, May 7th. And then we'll be in DC again at AGU on the 10th. And here's your QR code. Registration is open. Don't miss out. By the way, notice that the hybrid is still available this year on Friday, May 10th. So join us. That's going to be joyful, but let's talk about sparking joy rather than burnout for our volunteer success. Now, this concern about I can't find volunteers or the volunteers don't get the job done is something that, quite frankly, we were hearing a lot of anyway before COVID, but since COVID, this has been a real drumbeat of concern for chapters. And as a matter of fact, in the benchmarking study that we did in 22, and I know Sarah's got a link to that. We actually talked to chapter leaders, and that's also what they said. So that study actually was a series of chapter leaders from around the space. And wow, I mean, I'm just telling you, it was echoed by the volunteer leaders. So what do we do? Well, let's talk about some solutions, because I believe that if we work together, we can actually help our chapters deal with this challenge. And the we, of course, is Billhighway and Mariner. And of course, we want to work with you because it's our shared purpose to build the community that supports you all in working with components. Components, whether they are geographic, issue, interest, or discipline. Now, I know you know this, but let me just echo out that Billhighway's chapter performance solution is fabulous. There'll be links to some great case studies, but really that's one of the big answers to burnout. And of course, over at Mariner, we have fun helping you also help your chapters. But as we get started, I think it's really important for us to take just a moment to recognize that really this burnout is our number one enemy of volunteer time. And, quite frankly, we're not alone. All of us have some level of this going on. So actually, I'd like to hear from you all a little bit about what are some of the things that you're already doing? Because we've got lots of ideas and suggestions, but I think it'll be valuable for us to build on each other's experience. Let me launch a poll and get you to weigh in on this. What changes to your systems have you made to address challenges in recruiting and keeping volunteers? So we've just given you a whole bunch of them that we've kind of heard about and looked at. And I'm just curious in terms of what are some of the things you've already tried? And if you've already tried them, as we talk today, please feel free to throw these into to chat, give us a little bit more information. And yes, Sarah is reminding us that we put quite a few options on this one. So please feel free when you get the poll up, make sure that you screen to see all of them. The last one reads something else. Tell us in chat. So people are coming in very quickly, and I'm loving this. Lots of really good things that you all are doing. And I've got about close to 70% of you have weighed in. It is a multiple choice. So far, celebration with lots of recognition. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that one. I love seeing that. Yeah, keep it going. Offering training and opportunities to build skills. I think we've got just about everybody in. Give you a few more moments. One of the things I think is really interesting is that one of the lower ones is introducing tech. How many of you came on to the webinar we had with Beth Z on ChatGPT? I mean, there's so much is available AI, and then you put together a system like Billhighway's, and that puts systems and processes around it, makes a big difference. Let me go ahead and end the poll so we can show you what you all are doing. So I love the fact that many of you are looking at training to build skills and recognition, and also building that community. I would say that really us being able to look at 1 and 2 on this list is going to be really valuable for our chapters. Now, let me ask this question. What do you think are the contributors to burnout? Now, do you think that it is inadequate support communication? Maybe it's time-consuming roles, maybe lack of purpose, lack of clarity, lack of recognition. I mean, what do you think and what do you hear is really contributing? Oh, Claire, I know, I understand. I feel your pain. So part of one of the things we have to do is look at how can we do this with really kind of with less money. The good news is recognition can be done low budget. That's a good news. The other good news is I believe that if we begin to learn from each other, we can find some tech solutions that are lower cost. So anybody that's got a lower cost solution that they've run into, please go ahead and throw that in chat. And remembering again that we always share the chat. Okay, lots of conversations coming in here. Yeah. Yes, volunteering roles with quick turnaround. I'm telling you, DJ, that is a important. That's probably I would argue is one of the most important things we can do. All right, let me show you what you say you're hearing about contributors to burnout. Recycled leadership. I want to tell you that we're going to talk about that. We're going to hit on that point in just a little bit. Absolutely huge. I'm going to tie that back to some other things that we're seeing. But I think the time-consuming roles, it's almost like, I mean, communication is wonderful. But if what we're communicating or asking them to do is something that doesn't fit into their day, it's not going to happen, right? Maggie, I love to hear that you do the National Volunteer Week. Love for you to share some of your examples. Love that. Yes, and Robin is making this point that comes with this notion of we've got newer members in the field, but we've got artificial barriers to them. Love that. All right. Not sure I shared the results there. There you go. Let me go ahead. I'd love to find out this question. How often do you personally feel burnout? How often do you personally feel burnout? We are constantly working with our volunteers and our staff members when they have burnout. But how do you feel about burnout? Yeah, folks are coming in here. So 0 is none, 10 is very frequently. Now this is anonymous, so feel free to be as honest as you can. One of the things that we have to recognize is oftentimes is that our own burnout clouds or at least doesn't allow us to support those that are also experiencing burnout. So I think recognizing this is an important point. Oh, you're making a great point. I just saw a point that I'm low, meaning I'm assuming a burnout rating, but I'm new to the association profession. And I think, Lena, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can help volunteers. And one of the things is do something different. All right, I don't want to stay on this too long, but I do want you to see that honestly, you're not alone. All of us feel some level of burnout. All of us feel some level of burnout. Part of what we have to do, I think, is follow some of the advice that we're going to give our volunteers in this. All right. Last question I want to ask, and then I want us to talk about some of these things that we're talking about. But how do you address volunteer burnout in terms of discovering where it is, what it is, does it exist, how much of it exists. Because if we're going to decipher volunteer burnout, we gotta have to know if it's there, or know when it's there, or know how deep it is. Yes, Claire's mentioning that one of the things about burnout is it impedes creativity and time for pilot projects. Yes. Interesting comment here about, and I think it's interesting, looking for the pattern, say 3 cycles to see if someone drops out. 1 cycle of non-responsiveness is inadequate to assess burnout. I think some good advice there, some good advice there. All right. So this one's a little slower to the response. You guys are thinking about this. Don't think too hard. um, maybe just take a look at the palm tree and the ocean and see if that can help you. Looks like we're getting pretty good. I'm going to end it and share what we've got so far. So the most common one is we worry about it and note it, but we haven't figured things out. But I love the fact that almost 50% of you are saying you talk about it openly and you ask for input. Part of the issue that I want to say, and I'm going to stop the sharing and move on. Part of the issue is we can't address it unless we're going to be open to talking about it. So it's really good, I think, for us to be really clear and to say to volunteers, hey, burnout is alive and well in the workplace and in life. Name it, say it's there, be willing to talk about the fact that it absolutely exists, be willing to show that it's not unusual. And then, as you recognize the signs of volunteer burnout, begin to put words around those. Maybe it's a sense of decreased enthusiasm and motivation. Maybe it's, hey, are people dropping the ball? Maybe it's, hey, have you seen a change in attitude? Put words around it that allow you to have the conversation. And be clear in that conversation about the consequences of volunteer burnout. Be clear about helping people understand that the reason why there's an urgency for us to attend to this is because there's going to be real impact. And I think I'm going to suggest that you actually take the time to highlight this one, this idea about volunteering can be one of the most transformative chapter benefits. But if they're experiencing burnout, they're not going to get the full benefit of that. So I think we have lots of opportunities in having a good conversation, an opportunity for us to be able to acknowledge it's there and it's all around us. Say that, put words around what it is, and then also create some urgency to solving it. Now, one of the things I think in order for us to go the next step and begin to solve it is for us to understand some common causes of burnout. I'm checking out, just saw a really interesting chat comment. They did a volunteer survey last year and got lots of comments from volunteers about feeling burned out. They don't know how to hold them accountable. So here's the thing, is that we have to begin the conversation. We can't go to holding them accountable if we haven't addressed the burnout. So I love the fact that you did that survey. Let's talk a little bit about how we address that. So let me go back first to the causes of burnout, because part of us addressing it and getting to a place where we can actually hold them accountable is actually understanding what's causing. Now, I want to preface this by saying we went out based on the benchmarking study and based on the work that I have been doing with dozens of associations. We identified the key causes of burnout. But understand that too many times the cause of the burnout may be something external to the chapter, external to the association. In other words, I've got burnout and I'm walking in, and that means I'm either not showing up or not showing up with accountability, right? So understand there's some things outside the system. Our question today is what's inside the system that could cause burnout, right? So what's inside the system? Top of the list. I mean, this is from a great survey done by Galaxy Digital. Top of the list was lack of clarity around the volunteer role. Lack of clarity. And if there's lack of clarity, there's indecision. If there's indecision, the motivation goes down. Number one, lack of clarity. Number two, did not have the support and the communications that I needed. Just felt like I was a bit of an island. Coming in at number three was an unmanageable workload or schedule, just time-consuming roles, just not feeling like that it was manageable in a way that fit into the rest of my busy life. Lack of recognition showed up. Lack of purpose showed up. So sometimes when a lot of other things are almost right, but I don't feel like what I'm doing is going to make a difference, it shows up. It's not often voiced at the top of the list, but if you start peeling back the onion, it comes there. It's almost like kind of one of the core issues. And to echo something that was said, recycled leadership. Now, why is recycled leadership a cause for burnout? Well, recycled leadership is a cause for burnout because oftentimes, the recycled leader is in a burnout mode, right? So that's a problem. But it combines with a recycled leadership is sometimes on autopilot. And there they buy into, they don't want to rock the boat. How we did it last year is going to be the way we're going to do it this year. All of these things become a dynamic that furthers the burnout. So I think it's really important for us, if we can't do many things, we can help our chapters create practices that will move them forward in this new year. That's going to be critical for us as CRPs, whether we're talking about a chapter or a virtual group. How do we update their practices? How do we make sure that we're supporting the organization to be as sustainable as possible? Okay, Monica, I do love that. And if only prayer would support us in that particular thing, right? You know what? I think that a large part of this is that we have to put on our EQ and begin to drill down and understand better what are some of the things that are causing it so that we can in fact offer solutions. Yeah, so as Alicia mentions here, COVID was a catalyst to really just, I mean, it devastated many smaller groups. It devastated many nonprofits. It devastated some professions. And I want to make a note because during COVID, all of the volunteer numbers initially dropped. And then in the C3 market, they actually began to come back faster than we saw in some other areas. And do you know why? Because at some space at the core, a volunteer needs to know that what they're doing is making a difference. And I think that's another big disconnect that we have here in terms of how we're approaching volunteerism. Oh, yes, Claire, thank you. The pro-social light is so important. In fact, one of the things that came out of the decision to volunteer was how important it was for us to connect to both sides of the equation. Great point. So as we talk about how do we take those 6 elements that we just identified as the key causes and support them, I want to take a moment first to talk about another step in preventing, or if you will, turning it around. Essentially, you have a volunteer who is burned out, right? I want to suggest that it's really critical that I mentioned earlier having the conversation, but I want to stress that we have to have the conversation not only globally, not only talking across the system, but individually. I want us to understand that we first recognize that there's going to be life stressors versus specific chapter stressors. And really, frankly, you're going to probably have the same response. You're going to help them in much the same way. But you taking the time to understand, is this coming from what's happening external versus internal, is fact-finding for you. Because as someone said earlier, we only have so many dollars, right? And so many hours to be able to do this. So the real question we have to ask ourselves is, where do we put some priority? Well, the fact-finding lets you know, is it lots of stuff is external? Is maybe there's 2 or 3 things that come up constantly that I can apply some resources to. And by the way, if it comes up mostly external, someone had mentioned, I think it was Alicia had mentioned that the profession took a real nosedive, then you can give that feedback back to your the people membership, your CEO, and say, hey, it's time for us to help our members address with workplace stress. Nabil, who used to be with California therapist and is a therapist himself, an amazing person, does a wonderful set of sessions for associations on how to help their members deal with stress and burnout and some of the negativity and the impacts that they have on their day-to-day life. So maybe the fact finding helps you help your association address that at a different level. But let's have a conversation. Let's talk with the individual. Let's use that opportunity, putting our EQ hat on, to say, how are you doing? How are you liking the work you're doing with the chapter or with the national organization, right? How's the balance? Having this conversation that allows them to reply to you. Now, I probably wouldn't start the conversation to say, hey, by the way, listen, you look burned out. But I would take the time to get to know what's going on in their life. Bryn, it is Nabil, and I can't say his last name. It's Greek, and it's about this long. Sarah's got Nabil, and it's GHOU, and it goes on from there. We can make sure we send that for you. Thanks for that question. So when we have, that's it. Thank you, Michelle. Oh, Michelle's on. Hi, Michelle. She worked with Nabil, so she knows him as well. So if we're going to talk, I think the most important thing is us to be able to say to them, I really want to help you alleviate the stress because I want you to still enjoy volunteering. Powerful statement. I care about you. I know that there's a good value to your volunteering. I want to help you still do that, but we have to find the way that it works for you. Powerful question, right? And so you come back and you begin working it, problem solving. Maybe you say, let's lighten your workload. Let's find a different way for you to get the job done, right? Let's maybe help you set some priorities, take some things off the plate. Or maybe we just say, take a break. Is it time for you to step aside? Yes, maybe the chapter needs that, or maybe the committee really needs you. But at the end of the day, you not being able to be present in a way that's good for you means that you won't be able to do what is good for the chapter. So let's find that beautiful space where we're mutually beneficial, and train them to say no. When they have finished their term, tell them, do not be guilted into a second term because nobody stood up. The solution is not someone just keep re-upping to the presidency of the chapter or the presidency of the special interest group. And Barbette says, well, that's exactly what said one of our leaders, trying to find a vice chair if possible. Otherwise, we need to get someone part-time to assist. We hire. So we really do honestly need to help our volunteers if they are burned out to step off, step aside, take a break, support them. Doing the job poorly is worse than not doing the job. Finally, two cool things. If we know that negativity is creativity's enemy, and somebody sort of mentioned that earlier, well, the inverse is also true. Creativity can be negativity's enemy. Let me say that again. If negativity is creativity's enemy, then the inverse is true, which means creativity can be the enemy of negativity. So if someone's feeling stressed and burned out and not able to be present, maybe the role has gotten stale or overwhelming. Let's give them another opportunity. Let's help them switch a role. Let's help them try something else. Let's help them get another perspective, right? I think this is really a powerful way for us to keep somebody in the loop and yet redirect them into a way that will help them be productive for themselves and for the group. Great way when you've got somebody in a wrong role too. It's like, let's get you to a place where you're going to get more joy, right? I think that the last thing I want to mention here is that everybody said yes at some point because they had a why, right? There was a reason that they said yes. There was a sense of urgency, a sense of interest, a sense of commitment, a sense of passion, right? That obviously either went away or got lost in the mundaneness of doing the volunteer role, got lost in the stressors external. Take time. Well, what was your why? What got you to say yes? Okay. Is that still true? Oh, maybe not. Is there another why? Or if it's still true, how do we get back to that why? I think could be a very productive conversation. It could be a very productive conversation because if somebody is feeling burned out or stressed because they don't know why they are there anymore, because they can't connect it to the joy, then helping them refocus that could be another great way. So I think that sometimes the conversation can go in some really brilliant ways, not just take a break, but maybe there could be another role, another opportunity for them. Look, there's two great blog posts, and Sarah will throw these into the chat. One is it's written from your perspective, CRP perspective, the staff liaison, how to recognize and avoid volunteer burnout. And it's very C3. Both these are very C3 oriented, and they're not 100% on chart, but they've got some gems in them. The other one comes actually from the fishandwildlife.org, and it's written from the volunteer's perspective. I think it's a pretty handy kind of read for someone who's feeling a little burned out or stressed. But anyway, that was where I saw this great quote, which I actually have in my book of quotes that I keep about negativity and creativity. But I just think sometimes it's useful for us to look at the C3, which has a lot of burnout, just like we do. And they've got some really supportive ways of helping a volunteer get themselves around this conversation. Yes. Okay. So, Lisa, I just want to give a shout out to that. Maybe you're not assertive. None of us are. well, I shouldn't say that. Many of us are not certified, including myself as counselors. We do have EQ, right? If we're in this role, we're used to being empathetic. We're used to understanding how it feels to be in that individual's shoes, or at least ask the questions to get that feeling. A large part of what a large part of what makes us valuable, what draws us here, is our ability to be present to individuals. And so whether we call it certified, whether we call it high EQ, take the time to, that's burnout, burnout support for yourself, is be able to learn how to support that. Yes, I agree 100%. Thank you for talking about that. You all are doing a fabulous job in chat, I have to say. And one of the beautiful things is just a reminder that we absolutely do share the chat back with you, so you can see some of the links, but you can also see some of the ideas that are coming through. And I'm just looking, we are Tech Alliance with Tech Standards Boards, and we can't balance all, but we have to participate in all these groups for their position. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about your, a little bit more about, they can't balance it all, but have to participate. I'm wondering, as I look at something like that, is how can we apply technology supports to help them balance it? Like, and maybe this is just, we don't have an answer, but we can have a conversation. I can have a conversation. Oh my goodness, I love that, Monica. Thank you. Thank you. AI, artificial intelligence, chat GPT is just one example of it. Somebody asked the question. All right, let's dive into some strategies to, and you as a CRP can do to prevent chapter volunteer burnout. And I say it that way, but let me also mention that some of this stuff is you're going to train the volunteers to do this, right? So some of it is training the volunteers to take on some of this role. But I do think as staff liaisons, we have a responsibility to this particular issue. And a little plug, by the way, we are going to be launching on July 10th, and this information will come out, a staff liaison training. It'll be a deep dive in-person session in Washington, D.C. with a pre-webinar ahead of time. And it's one of the things we're going to be talking about is exactly this role of preventing volunteer burnout. So just a quick shout out there. But these strategies are ones you can use, and ones I believe that you can support your chapters to do. So number one is to rethink the volunteer role. So we go back to the things that that are a problem. We have to understand that having clarity around the volunteer role and having a volunteer role that fits into the schedule are two important aspects. This means that we have to be able to frame volunteer roles around what's the difference they're going to make, what's the clear goal, where are the metrics, get that clarity out, right? Help people understand it. But the second thing is allow the form to follow the function, right? Say to yourselves, I mean, what is the volunteer role we really need to get this job done? A question that I have begun playing with, that I'm starting to ask when I'm doing some of my volunteer chapter leader trainings and we're talking about this issue, the question I've begun using with the groups is it a committee? Is it a task force? Is it a work group? Is it an ad hoc position? Why am I saying this? Well, because we've been talking for years about taking jobs and narrowing them down, and people are struggling with that. And I think they're struggling with it because we're not using the nomenclature they're familiar with, number one. But I think they're also struggling with it because they're thinking of an either or, and really it's about saying what's the form that's going to make that group work. I think you have to give them permission to have this conversation. You have to give permission to explore, and you have to reward them for doing that. This is whether we're talking about a special interest group, a technical board, or a geographic group. It doesn't really matter. They need to figure out what do they actually need to get the job done. 2, I think we have to reduce the chapter volunteer workload in general. And of course, a key way of that is tapping the technology. Now, technology. Let me, we got Billhighway right here. The Billhighway chapter solution, it actually reduces the time volunteers spend on financial and administrative tasks, right? So it centralizes and automates banking, finance, and membership processes. And it does this wonderful data loop to help people make better decisions. So there's lots of different ways for you to apply technology. I know that the Billhighway, Impexium and Chapter Spot, I think, are now parts of the family. I think, and I'm saying Chapter Spot has just come on board. And I know Sarah can put this, but there's lots of technology solutions that can help us make connections and to really, I would say, reduce the chapter load. There's also things like AI and Chat GPT with NIGP, where we do the Chapter Academy. And what we've done is we've created webinars after the live event. And with NIGP, our April event is going to be how to use AI in your chapter. And we're going to be talking about AI and how it helps you with board minutes, AI and how it helps you write your marketing material, AI and how it helps you take all of these Excel spread lists and put them down into an engagement data. My point simply being that we have to make it more fun to do the job. And we have to help them learn how to spread the work around through micro-volunteering. And I'm just finding that chapters have the hardest time with micro-volunteering opportunities. And I'm thinking that we need to be more proactive in helping them and really embrace the micro-volunteering opportunities. We have to set up systems for them. Our own volunteer portals should show the small jobs that can be done at the chapter level as well. 3, offer opportunities for building skills. I saw somebody earlier say this, and I saw it on the poll, that you are investing in and offering cool opportunities to build skills. I love that. You need to offer training for all roles. I have got somebody who has asked me very specifically, she wants to talk to associations that are doing role-specific training. If you do role-specific training, can you please put in chat so that I can make a connection? So we're looking for examples of role-specific training. Okay, that was my little plug. And by the way, that's what this community is. She reached out to me. I said, I will ask in chat. Okay, so there you go. And actually, let's follow up to Claire's question. What micro-volunteering jobs or ideas do you have that your chapters are using? So put both of those in there. Carla does micro thing. Keep going, keep going. I'm loving this, loving this. Okay. Deliver training in multiple ways. I know we think about webinars. I know we think about in-person. Do you think about website resources? Do you think about one-page newsletters? Then lead the chapters to your resources. Lead the chapters to figuring out these opportunities. Do case studies and print those case studies off about how a chapter has used the resources. Let me give you 3 cool things. I just did the NIGP Chapter Leader Conference. We had a great time. One of the things we did was we had a puzzle contest. We made puzzles. They were, I think there were 30-piece puzzles. And you can get them on the things. We made a puzzle for each of the main resources available for chapters. So the resource library, the chapter ambassadors, the SMEs, the chapter hosting, a bunch of things. And we had them get at tables, and there was a contest to see who could put it through and discover it, and then we held it up. Lots of fun, lots of exciting things. It was our way of leading chapters to the resources. Then on our last webinar, we took a question from somebody. They said, well, I want ideas on this. We stopped the webinar, went to the live site. My contact, Jennifer, Jennifer actually showed them how they could answer their question by connecting to the resources. And then the last thing I want to share is we did a hat parade, an in-person hat parade, where all of the chapter ambassadors, a couple of the SMEs, subject matter experts who can help chapters, the person who actually ranges for some free speakers to the, all these people came with their hats. And they said, the hat I'm wearing helps you solve this. Lots of ways you can lead chapters to resources. I think there are two extra things I want to highlight on this slide, though. That one is showing right now, connect to the day job. Every time we're doing skill development, connected to the day job, that helps you get them committed to the training, which will help them. And invest in leaders early. I'm working with two different organizations right now where we're doing emerging leaders programs, and they're cohorts, and the cohorts last a couple of, one of them lasts 4 months and one of them lasts 6 months, 9 months, excuse me. Bottom line is these are people who have not yet become leaders. We're getting them involved in the leaders in leadership learning connected to their job in a way that gets them involved and engaged in it. Okay, create a supportive environment. I ask for their opinion, offer perks, cultivate this culture, right? That says that their voice counts. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we need to remind them that their chapter needs them, in fact, may not exist without them, and connecting what they're doing to the chapter and the association's mission and goals. This is about painting the story. Now, National Volunteer Week is coming up. Paint the story. What is the impact? How has X chapter made a difference in the lives of a member? Okay, paint the story, tell the story, and at the entire time, point to them and say, look what you did, and then point to the members and say, look what they did, right? I think it's really important that we create this supportive environment. And this also means we have to be available to them 24/7. Did I say that out loud? I did. And I don't mean you personally. I mean your system, your network, your website, your community has to be available all the time. So think about that. Think, how do you bring to life, right, the fact that this is a rich community, which gets us to connecting them with their peers in a very focused, specific way. In chat, how do you offer any kind of a pair up, a peer-to-peer, a mentoring? Do you offer an online community, maybe a Slack channel? How do you connect the dots, connect the people, I should say, not the dots, connect the people? Give me some examples of how you connect the people. So I'm seeing a great response from Colleen, and I'm going to ask Colleen, could you go ahead and that got sent, unfortunately, to hosts and panelists. Can you resend it to everyone? You have to scroll down and click it. The default for some reason is hosts and panelists. Okay, so Lena's got a group and Monica's got an online community. Now, here's what I'm going to ask. If you've got a group, I want to know who's got an online community or a group that is rocking. Not an echo chamber, not quiet, but rocking. I'd love to hear who's got a rocking community, because a large part of us connecting to peers has got to be digital as well as in person. So what are the other ways? You have seasoned, Michelle's got, yes, Michelle does have seasoned leaders mentoring incoming. I love that. If you guys have an example that you can share in chat or share to me or Sarah, so we can share out, that would be great. I think that the leader to leader mentoring examples are great. NIGP has two things that I'd like to share, and we can share these with you, I'm pretty sure. One is their chapter ambassadors, which are geographically organized to work with chapters, and they have a certain amount of budget to actually go to chapters, and they have responsibilities to align with a particular chapter. Not unusual. But I really like the program they just launched, which are the chapter SMEs. These are seasoned leaders who have this particular interest in, let's say, member engagement or strategic planning or finance or social media. And I say to you, they use a simple form. My chapter needs help with X. And then Jennifer connects them to the SME that will help them. And that is a great way for you to connect people based on interest, passion, and need. Okay, Monica, we're going to follow up with you absolutely on that. So mentor opportunities are very popular. The online community is going to take a little more time. I know that, Carla. Great. I love it. Oh, that's neat. Francis says that some of the sections have interested members to shadow them at the annual meeting. I like that. Excellent. All right. 5 is oh, I'm sorry. And then, but make sure they're not alone. Okay. And then 6 is to spark joy. Had to end with spark joy because we wanted to start with spark joy. It's a dash of celebration and heavy doses of recognition. I know that we do a good job at our chapter leader programs or our SIG leader programs or our volunteer programs of celebrating them. How often do we celebrate them to the larger membership? So make sure your dash of celebration isn't just in the chamber, right? But it's beyond. That's where National Volunteer Week comes in, I believe. It gives us an opportunity to shout from the rooftops, right? So the dash of celebration means give a party, right? Give a shout out. So definitely do your volunteer reception. Just make sure that you have someone proactively helping people feel part of that community. Do your volunteer thing. Make sure that you have the parties. One CRP told me that every time she visits a chapter, she brings a party with her. I'm like, that is brilliant. I said, what kind of party do you bring with you? And she says, oh, Peggy, I bring with me, sometimes it is, I pick up a meal for the board. Sometimes I bring party hats if I know somebody, they've done something that's really important. Yes, how cool is that to do to bring the party with you, right? But heavy doses of recognition. This means you taking a quick email to say to Suze, you did a great job, right? And I love Colleen. This is our member weekly email. Here's a volunteer, or here's a state event run by oftentimes volunteers, right? So being able to absolutely do the shout out is going to be very important. So I would love you to light up. Thank you, Colleen, for throwing that out there. I'd like you all to light up with examples of how you can do recognition. So we've got the spot in the member thing. Does anybody have issues that sometimes upset someone got hired, but they didn't? Oh my goodness. Oh, I love that. And of course, Francis comes in with a great recommendation. You know what I think is interesting, Monica, if I had a volunteer that didn't feel like they were recognized, I would think I would go back to them and I would say, how would you like to be recognized? Happy to put the spotlight in. But that's an interesting conversation there. Excellent. I mean, I love it. So, oh, I love that. So Colleen had a great idea. They sent succulents last year, bought them on Etsy and a customized thank you. They loved it and posted on social media. Colleen, can you share some of those pictures? Oh my gosh, I'd love to put it on my website to show another example. I love that. I love that. Oh, so Liesl, thank you for throwing that out there. This idea of the Pinnacle Award that recognizes innovative projects. If you've got any details on that, you can share it so people can, that's an idea to steal. So far, steal Colleen's idea, steal Liesl's idea. Oh, I love this. And Alicia, we'd love to see that video, last year's video, steal that idea. Oh, Wesley, thank you. Another example. We recognize somebody's expertise and success by asking them to lead the training session, right? Like you did this. Now, the caveat being you might have to help them be trained to do that. But I love that idea. Steal that idea, right? Steal that idea. Oh, Liesl, thank you. Yeah, so Monica, swag is great. You know what else you could do is we gave swag to CRPs at one of our virtual CEXs. This little guy. And it was actually somebody who donated them. And then we gave this one, which is my favorite, which comes from Event Guard, right? So you're saying to me, Peggy, what's that got to do with my question? Have somebody else support the swag. See if you can get somebody else to help you pay for that swag, right? So I think that's kind of part of what you have to do. Oh, Colleen, I love that. When you do something great and other people trying to buy it from you is probably suggests that you've got a winner there. Let's see, what else? Who else has got a great idea? And if anybody has an idea for Monica on other swag, that would be kind of neat for you to help her out there. Let's see, I'm looking for other ideas. Come on, you guys are a creative bunch, I know. Beautiful. Look at this. Just I'm heading back to it. Yes, everybody take a look at NAOP's chapter mentoring program link that that was put in there. Thank you for sharing that. Totally love that. Oh, Francis, that is great. Inexpensive frames made, naming the committee each a picture of them. And you know what else you could do is you could send that photo to them electronically and say, you know, we're saving the money to put back into X, but wanted you to have this picture. And actually, a lot of people are saving digital pictures. So a great way to do that is you take the time and effort to get the image created and shared and let them use it the way they want to. Yes, yes, bunches of stickers. Oh, now, okay. So Becky, thank you for that idea. So maybe we have to co-op the budget of somebody else, right? So this idea of your meetings, your conference is already doing, they already have to do lanyards. What if they ordered the lanyards, they ordered a small supply in a different color that went out to the chapter leaders? Wow. Or the SIG leaders, or all volunteers, right? I love that. Okay, and Alicia comes back with another reminder that sometimes the best swag is access to something that they want that we're doing, a particular leadership program. Back in the day when Wesley was with REPS, I'm just going to call him out on this, They were launching a new LMS, and one of the things that they did was, which was supportive to the LMS team, but also supportive to Wes being able to recognize and support his volunteers, was they got a chance to do a couple of the chapter 101 and some training things in the LMS for free. Also introduce them to this new LMS. Again, another way of connecting with another department that has money and or resources to help you get the job done. And a fire sale, I mean, how else can you spark joy than putting a little heat into the situation? I totally loved it. Yes, Wesley, thank you I was hoping I didn't get that too wrong. All right. We want to make sure that we can spark joy in our really spark joy for our volunteers. I think it will spark joy for ourselves, which I also think is really important. Keep the ideas coming. In fact, we're going to keep the ideas coming. We're going to have on our next webinar the fabulous Elizabeth Engel come in and talk about how we can work better with our components on membership growth. Whether you have a virtual or an in-person chapter, whether you're talking about a chapter, a SIG, a knowledge community, a tech board, there is this tug and pull around membership. And we're super excited to be able to have Elizabeth come in and lead a really dynamic conversation. I will warn you, your fingers will grow tired taking notes during this, number one. And number two, once you sit in that one, you are going to want to make sure that you have registered for part 2, which will be at our DC CEX. So this year, you might have noticed with CEX that we are doing a deep dive. The deep dive on non-dues revenue, a big pain point for chapters in Chicago, and a big deep dive on membership in DC. And this is going to be part 1 of this. I have got 30 seconds left, and those 30 seconds gives me the opportunity to say, check out the Billhighway success stories. Definitely check out what we're able to do for you. Billhighway, Mariner, we'll talk with you. And whatever you do, spark a little joy in your life and your volunteer's life. It's been great. I'm joyful.